So, today I want to talk about something very educative. If you could please lend me a few minutes of your time, this is quite eye opening. I want to talk about how scammers are targeting young Africans with so called mouth watering UN jobs. So, please sit back, relax, and get educated. How do these scammers work? As you all know, there has been a rise in explosion of AI technologies that range from generative AI, powering and emboldening these scammers to become more clever and smart and become more complex and harder to detect. Now, one of the way you could be able to easily fall for this scam is that they look up to your profile on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, and so on and so forth. Pick out some of your personal information and they use some of this information to send, for example, random fake emails and websites that looks official and very subtle to detect. They will list out a lot of mouth-watering UN job titles and impressive salaries that could easily drag you, and you could, focus your attention and want to apply. They also promise you fast-track hiring processes that bypass the normal routes. They will also talk about at the end of the day that you will need to pay for certifications, visa, accommodation, or boarding, and so on and so forth. Now, they know that a lot of young people are desperate, and also with the economic downturn in most African countries, especially like Nigeria, there is a lot of struggle of make it or break it. So a lot of people want to Japan, so on and so forth. So they easily fall prey to some of these guys. Now, what are the common red flags? You would think so hard that you apply for some of this job, but when you really take a minute of your time to think very hard, you will discover you never did because you didn't apply for them. Now, what are the signs that this could be a scam? The first thing is that they would send you via emails like Yahoo, Gmail addresses, and so on and so forth. Secondly, they are going to ask you as you progress along the recruitment processes. They will talk about certifications you need to pay for. You also need to pay for example, visa, accommodation, and also boarding, and so on and so forth. Another thing you could easily identify is the grammars are usually poor and full of some inconsistencies. But like I said, there is a rise in AI. So AI is really helping them to structure it in such a way that you could not detect these errors in the grammar as such. Now there is this pressure for you to act immediately. It will look like if you don't apply, you're going to miss out the opportunity, and so on and so forth. Now, always look out for the real website and look out for some of this normal recruitment processes of these organizations. Is there a deviation from it, or is there not a deviation from it? Also look at some of the timeline of these guys. Now, I'm going to talk about a personal encounter today. I never shared a story with lots of people, although some of the people close in my cycle, in one time or the other mentioned it to them. But today I was compelled to really talk about this because there is a resurgence of these guys, and it's good if I could come out to share my story, someone could learn from it. Uh, I had an encounter with this guy sometime 2021, 2022. Someone sent a random email talking about there are openings and opportunities in this organization. You should submit an application letter or a resume and so on. And I thought, well, there's no harm in trying. And then I forward my application. So after a long period of time, probably like 3 months or 4 months, that was in 2022. I received another email telling me I need to fill out all the information. I did. And then later on, after like 2 months or so, I received another email telling me, congratulations, I've been offered a job. Coincidentally, it fall in the period where I also had other offers because I was almost rounding up my PhD that period of time. So I started looking out for opportunities or also for my postdoc and so on and so forth. So that was like a period of a bit of desperation. Well, I wouldn't say I was really desperate, but I was looking forward to the next stage of my life. So it was a crucial point for me to make certain decisions. So, like I said, they will start by sending you an email, which is like a bait strategy. So someone sent me this random email telling me, "Oh, we're happy to start what was," and so on and so forth. There is this opening. You should send out your resume to this email address, and then you should share the information to as many people as you can. So I was like, okay, this is fine. There is no harm in trying. Let me just forward my information. Then I forward it. So what they normally do is that they will wait for a very long period of time. You can imagine this email was sent to me in 2021, and then around 2022, around I think July, August, thereabout, then I received another email. So they usually give it time so you wouldn't suspect if it's fraud or not. And in the email they sent to me, there were so many job opening roles and all that, and I opted for, I think, a senior technical advisor. And then you will see the salary for each of this role, which is quite mouth-watering, you can see, and really it looks kind of very real. And you would see the contact person they asked to send the email from, and you'll always see that each of those email will carry a UN .org. So that makes it kind of very difficult for you to detect. But then it's a scam. Now, later on, after several months, I received another email again telling me to forward my personal history form. Now, in the personal history form, which I didn't share on those platforms, you will see it. It looks so real because it duplicates what the UN are doing. It's in the UN recruitment processing. At some point, you will do the personal history and all that. So they mimic that process, but it's not real. So I fill that and I forward them that form. Then later on, after I think a week or 2 weeks thereabout or so, I received a notification letter of employment that I've been offered the position of a senior technical advisor for 5 year period. I was quite happy and I was like, oh, this is great. And they said I have to report in the Asia regional office and so on and so forth. They also further sent me other email and detail on how to go about the visa and so on and so forth. They require other documentation. So there had been this series of communication between me and them back and forth. So, but this also, even as it looks so real, you could see the email was speaking so real coming from UN, the addresses that they copied at the end of the email, the names, all looks like it is UN, but that's not UN, it's a scam. So how will you know the scam? I would have fallen for these guys because it looks so real. Everything looks so real. They will send you information and tell you to send your passport page and that of your dependent. They will start processing the visa and so on and so forth. But then they now at the point ask me to make a payment for accommodation, that I need to pay for the period of training that I will be trained, and the place I'm going to stay, I need to pay. I think the sum they demanded was around 5,000 euros. Now, that period of time, coincidentally, like I said, it coincided with the period where I also had an offer for my postdoc. So I was kind of divided because I was supposed to start processing my visa for my postdoc. So I needed money that period of time. Now you could imagine if I could have fallen for these guys and paid the money that I was supposed to use for my postdoc. It would have been very bitter and terrible for me. And at a point, I almost wanted to call my postdoc professor to tell them that, look, I don't want to resume because I had another offer. But I didn't, because I remembered what saved me was that I went to the Mensa. We normally eat at the Mensa. So when I got to the Mensa, there was this my friend. He was also doing his postdoc. So I shared the news with him and I showed him the email, and he was like, man, congratulations, I'm so happy for you. We were going to have a position immediately you finish your PhD. So I now told him, I said, but they are asking me to pay for an accommodation for the period of training. And then he was like, look, Tony, this isn't looking good, because if this is UN, they wouldn't have asked you to make any sort of payment. Maybe you should do some checks and see about, you have to be very sure before you make any payment. Have you did any check on these guys? Then it dawned on me, like, I never really did any check, because I always see UN emails and all that, so it never occurs to me that I need to really sit down, do some checks, and really see if this guy are true or not. Then we had a long conversation with him. He told me, he said, look, don't be in a hurry to accept or reject any other offer you had, but finish your research, and then you could think about it, come up with a conclusion. So at the end of the day, I got back to my room, pull out my laptop, and then I sat down. It dawned on me that there is a course I did in network analytics for big data. And one of the tasks we recommended that period was to watch videos of how these scammers and hackers operate. What are some of the red flags that you could actually notice if what is a scam and what's not, and how you could be able to detect them, and the different kind of scams that happen across Asia, Africa, and so on and so forth. So remembering some of the things I did in the course, I sat down and I was like, now I need to start looking out for some of these inconsistencies to see if this is true or not. So that formed the basis of the next section of this video. So the first thing I did was to look out for subtle inconsistencies in the email. Now, when you looked at the email they sent to me, when I compared the email of the author with that of the real UN author, there were two different things. First of all, I noticed there was nobody called this Alexander Charin whatsoever. Then, secondly, I noticed that in the UN email, there is these guys altered and create their own domain. For example, there is a hyphen before the UN.org. While in the real UN email, you will never see this. It's always going to be .un.org. And then there is a Gmail, which is completely a red flag. The UN wouldn't have done that. So I identified that. The next thing I did was to zoom in this very email here to see if I also spot these inconsistencies. And guess what? I began to see them. This is a red flag. There is a hyphen before the .un.org. But this is done in a very subtle way that if you don't take notice, you would not be able to spot it. Now, all of the email that is sent, you can see that there is that hyphen before the .org. The same to it all. So when I identified this, I quickly highlighted them. I noted them down. Now, immediately I noticed that in my case, I stopped communicating with them. I blocked their emails and all that. And then I also sent an email to the UN to order get some further clarification and also to report the case and all that. But I never really cared to come out to say a lot about it until recently. One of my students, which also happens to be my very good friend, and I had his permission actually to share this story because we really want to educate the public and other people not to fall prey on. So fast forward, this is 2025, and then he came up recently while I was very busy working. He told me that, please, I need a few minutes of your time. I need help to structure my CV because there is this opening at the UN and so on and so forth. Similar story. So when he told me about it, I said, okay, it's fine. Send me your CV. I could help you to look at it and see how could improve on it. And so when he sent it to me, and then it dawned on me like, okay, can you send me the job description? Let me just take a look at it. And he was like, okay, it's fine. Then he shared it with me, and that's what I'm also going to talk about in the second case study. So when he shared with me, this is a selection on administrative assistant role that has to be based in Nigeria, in Abuja duty station. And the moment he sent this to me, I was like, okay, now let me start looking out for these subtle inconsistencies, because if it's the UN, the normal job description and application and everything has a normal processes that it's supposed to pass through. So the email alone was a red flag. So the moment he sent it to me, I zoomed into this email. and again you could see the distortion, FAO-recruitment.org. So immediately I noticed that. The second thing I did was, so okay, I need to check if this person actually exists, this HR. So the HR name Fatima Khan, I thought make some search on this person to see who is this person, and if this person works, then definitely she should have some social or she should have some carbon footprint on the internet. So I did some Google search, and immediately I did some Google search about this person. Information pops up, and the only close thing I could see here is Dr. Fatima Khan, and then the next person was Fatima Khan, External Relation Officer, WHO. So that was kind of a red flag to me, because this person was supposed to be working at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, but this person is working with the World Health Organization, and this person is an external relation officer, while this person here is a human resource specialist. So there is some inconsistency here. But in order for me to further satisfy my curiosity, I clicked on the LinkedIn profile to actually see more about this person. But when I opened up this person, first of all, I noticed there was lots of inactivity. The person didn't do any inactivity. The person just put what they are working, but there was no post. As you could see, Fatima hasn't made any post yet. So I was like, normally a lot of people like to share information about their career progression on platforms such as LinkedIn. It's very good because it helps you to keep this professional record, so anyone could look up to it and could easily see what's happening in your career, how you're growing and progressing. But this person hasn't made any posts, so I began to think, I was like, if this person actually worked for the UN, this person is really supposed to make some organization, show some of the activities and stuff that they are doing, but there was nothing done about it. Then again, I did some checks on the emails to see. So when I checked some of the emails, again I saw the red flags. The applicant was at UN, the hyphen.org. And when you see the original UN website, you would see that it's always career.org.ng. For example, for the food whatsoever, you would always see the .org. You won't see this hyphens coming up. So when I noticed that, I quickly called him and told him, look, you don't have to proceed with this application. This is fake. This is not true. These are scammers. They want to scam you. Now, also in the UN website, when you do some diligent checks, you will see a particular page on fraud alert. Now, when you quickly go through the fraud alert page, you will see how some of these scammers are being using the UN to extort money from people. So you have to be very careful. And if you check the normal recruitment process in UN, you will see that the only two available platforms where you could be able to apply to any UN job is via career.ng.org. And then you also see the Inspira.ng.org. So they will never at any point in time ask you to submit your resume or CV or application letter via email. It's always going to come via these two platforms. So any other thing outside this platform is a scam. Don't fall for it. Now, at no any other point in time that they will ask you to make any form of payment. So anyone asking you to pay for training, to deposit for accommodation, for visa, for certification is a scam. Don't fall for it. Now, the next thing you need to do is try to spare a bit of your time, do some search for published materials, because if this is a scam, definitely there must have been some persons that have raised awareness or complaint. So this sort of clue you could actually compare them with what you have to see if it matches what was sent to you. So when you do some search on the website of UNICEF, UN, and so on, all these top organizations, you easily spot how these guys operate, and you could easily detect some of the methods they are using. Now, I understand that in Africa there is a culture of silence in most African communities, and that's okay because a lot of people are scared because there is this common rising issues on jealousy or envy about many people may not be happy with your progress and so on and so forth. There is also this belief on witchcraft and spiritual attack that makes a lot of people don't want to share good news too early, and also the issue of the near success syndrome. So many things that are happening, and I'm not in any way telling you to discard these things, but you need to confide in someone. Don't keep information. Like I always tell my friends that sin and even Satan thrives in secrecy. When you keep those things to yourself, it could easily build up, and with time it begins to hold you in chains. So learn to share information, especially with mentors, people that you aspire to be like them, people that have much experience and knowledge, that you really feel secure in sharing information that is crucial to life moments, decisions that you want to make. Don't bottle up important decisions. Talk to mentors with proven experiences. Remember, two good heads are better than one. Also, be cautious of greed. Many of these scammers prey on the desperation of people. I know the Nigerian community is really not good. There is a lot of messy things going on, the rising cases of insecurity, and so many things about the uncertainty in the land. But again, you have to really, really be careful. Not to just because you want to japa, you could easily fall victims of some of these scammers. You have to know that if you're desperate to make it, this is exactly what these fraudsters are targeting, and this is what they really want. Next, you need to do your homework. I know there is a lot of rising culture about people not wanting to read, but you need to save a bit of your time to do some little research because it can save you. Take out your time, check on the internet, make some searches about some of these organizations before you go and proceed with some of those processes, so you don't hand over your personal and crucial information to scammers that could even eventually use it to hurt you. Remember, the Bible said, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." So you have to make sure you take out time to do your research. It could really help you. Do not rely on what you are told. Verify information yourself. Do not be scared to be a black sheep. Do not be scared to question existing knowledge. You have to search for the truth. Remember, the Bible said, if you know the truth shall set you free. So do not be afraid to search for the truth at all costs.